Hey, what's going on everybody, and welcome back to another video. Now, we do a video like this every once in a while when Void Interactive releases an announcement regarding their bi-weekly newsletters. It's been a little while now since we've covered one of their newsletters. This is their 46th edition of their newsletter, and it's not necessarily focused around Ready or Not's gameplay. However, I found it extremely intriguing, and we're looking at some real-life events that have impacted and shaped the design of both the game, Ready or Not, and the locations that make Los Sueños feel like a living, breathing world. Now, unfortunately, there are many events that for one reason or another have been required to be solved by the tactical expertise of singular or many SWAT teams. Whether the response was to a genuinely evil organization or person, slow escalation of hostage situations, robberies gone wrong, or at the absolute worst, a situation that ultimately involves reasonably innocent individuals placed in extreme circumstances. Very recently, one of our artists, Leupold, I believe I'm saying that name correctly, took a trip down to the site of the Waco siege and took a veritable mountain of incredible photos. For those who are unaware, in short, the Waco siege was a police action that majorly included they put BATF here, I think they just meant the ATF. I'm not exactly sure, if somebody could correct me, but either way, the ATF and the FBI responding to the serving of a search warrant to the Branch Davidians at their company near Elk, Texas, resulting in the deaths of 4 law enforcement officers and 82 civilians. It is worth noting we are going to cover this in the video. I figured why not, but the description that I just read regarding the Waco siege is an extremely simplified version of a still discussed and highly disputed event as such. If this is something you'd like to read into further, there are many resources to do so. This is their words. Obviously, you guys can look up many different resources on the internet to kind of look into the Waco siege in your own. There's documentaries, there's a lot of news articles, etc. I also talk about it here towards the end of the video, so stick around so we can kind of talk about the Waco siege as a whole. Now, they had their artist go to this location, and this is what he has to say. We pulled onto EE Ranch Road. It was pretty bumpy from all the dips and potholes. The black iron gate was open with a sign asking for a $10 donation per visit. A memorial just past the gate is dedicated to the 76 men, women, and children who had died in the fire caused by the siege. Aside from the foundation remnants, the only original remains from the compound, a 70-foot-long swimming pool at the rear of the site, the unfinished storm shelter just to the left, and the buried school bus used as a tunnel between the compound and the storm shelter, now lying partially unburied like an old mangled soda can, completely unrecognizable as a school bus with the entire surrounding area overgrown with weeds and foliage. We've got a few pictures here that I'm showing you guys, and this is directly from the Void Interactive individual himself that went to the site here. Concrete slabs of the original foundation line, left side of the church, marking where the old gymnasium and foyer once stood. Walking into the pool, I stepped down to examine David Corsius, leader of the Branch Davidians, signature of the cement pool when it was first constructed in 1992, with a barely visible Star of David below. A concrete slab with some dog paw prints was also located besides the pool. It matched the age of the rest of the concrete, so I assumed it belonged to the Branch Davidians' dogs. Between the pool and the storm shelter is the remains of the water tower, now just rusted pipe surroundings by concrete. And that's all there is here to the newsletter that they provided to us. I think it's extremely interesting that they had one of their artists go to this location and take pictures of this absolutely crazy raid that took place years and years ago. And I do want to kind of talk about it a little bit. And also, before we get into it here, I'm also just kind of intrigued overall due to the fact that this may or may not be their hint at possibly adding a new type of level, due to the fact that it does say level introspective for the briefing. So we might get a level that's very close and similar to the Waco siege that took place. Either way, those that do not know, back in 1993, the ATF and the FBI served search warrants at a small compound location where there was a cult called the official name is the Branch Davidians, ran by a one David Koresh. And supposedly the FBI and the ATF had search warrants as well as arrest warrants for the arrest of the cult leader due to violations of civil rights, child abuse, along with this firearms charges, which firearms charges was the main reason, as far as I know, was the main reason for their raid to begin with. And then in addition to that, charges of child molestation and sexual exploitation of children. Now, on February 28th in 1993, the ATF and the FBI launched this siege, this raid on this cultist compound, and they were aware of the raid taking place somehow, and they met police with a gunfire battle which resulted in numerous deaths. Now, about the Branch Davidian, they were a self-isolated group that lived in a large communal setting, and David Koresh was very controlling. Now, David Koresh is the leader of this cult group. He was controlling of the individuals who were there to listen to his ministry, and law enforcement officers heard that the cult had a substantial number of firearms and ammunition at the location, and David Koresh had slowly taken control over the ministry and was known to be extremely controlling and a manipulative individual. So much so that he had a lot of control over the lives of the innocent individuals that lived there and followed the cult leader. While the siege was taking place, and it was very evident that the ATF and the FBI were pretty much dealing with a barricaded hostage situation, and during negotiations, law enforcement were able to get an agreement for David to get his people to cease firing, as well as the ATF agreed to cease fire, and they even offered medical attention or medical assistance to go in and assist the people that may have been injured, and they refused it at that time. The negotiation with David was to induce the surrender of David himself and the cult members and get all the innocent civilians out. Law enforcement agreed to air a 58-minute sermon that David prepared. However, David still refused to surrender even when they aired this sermon. Eventually, over a long period of time, law enforcement were able to rescue over 21 children from David. He was holding them captive, supposedly. However, he was not happy with law enforcement taking these kids, and there were over 90 adults and 18 children supposedly still remaining within the compound. Police were patient and expended every effort to attempt to get innocents out peacefully. However, on the morning of April 19th, 1993, and yes, this did range over, I think it was 51 days, that's how long the siege was ongoing. April 19th, 1993, law enforcement resulted in a tactical solution due to the fact that David refused to get out and he was holding hostages, etc. At least from the police point of view, it was hostages, but I believe later they identified that it was more or less David just keeping those individuals there due to his, religious views, etc. But either way, their idea was to force, through the use of tear gas, the systematic exit of all the cult members, including David and the children he was holding captive. It took over 48 hours to systematically saturate the far ends of the compound and to kind of get the civilians to move to, I guess, one end of the compound and move them out the front door. And they engaged police as this was ongoing, and I suppose they were attempting to leave the gas-filled structure and were engaging law enforcement vehicles, etc. At one point, police air support observed that a cult member poured some type of liquid and lit a fire, causing a massive structure fire, and David refused to lead the children out to safety as well as the remaining cult members, and only 9 adults made it out of the burning structure. No children made it out, no women made it out. The siege lasted over 51 days, and the FBI negotiators accepted the fact they have failed to save many innocent lives from the burning structure. Now, many survivors as well as others believe that the FBI and the ATF were the major unfortunate influence to the deaths of innocent lives by raiding the compound and attempting to serve the warrants. And obviously this is just my opinion, coming, I guess, from my perspective, and that it may be the case. We may not have all the facts. However, I personally believe that this David Koresh individual, the leader of the Branch Davidian cult, was what seems like a truly evil individual who directed and negatively influenced innocent children, women, and men, which undoubtedly led to their death when that fire started, as well as the children's parents who blindly followed David and the religious cult. And like stated previously, there's a lot of propaganda spread regarding this awful raid that took place. We've got accusations regarding law enforcement starting the fire with the gas and covering it up by saying it was the cultists that, I guess, started the fire. So you've got people saying that it was the ATF and the FBI's fault, and at the same time there are reports of FL FLIR, FLIR, which is infrared from like helicopters, etc., footage, eyewitness testimony, and microphone overhears of the Davidians spreading fuel and planning to start a fire. And honestly, I don't want to go into too much of, I guess, this complication and discussing like a controversial issue. However, I think we can come to an agreement that there may be wrongs from both sides, and I certainly refuse to believe there aren't incidents where the police are in the wrong. And at the same time, Mr. David Koresh seemed like an evil, manipulative man. Either way, that's going to be everything there. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I thought it was interesting. I hope you guys thought it was interesting. I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say about this incident down in the comments, and I'm definitely excited to see if this is going to turn into a level, or at least inspired by some type of mission within Ready or Not. I think it could be really cool. Either way, again, that's going to be everything. Thank you guys so much for sticking to the end, and we'll see you in the next video.